Hey there, thanks for joining us at the Rabbit Hole of Research, where you'll learn a few facts that you can impress your friends with at a party.
Hey, welcome back to the Rabbit Hole of Research, down here in the basement studio, take 2.
Oh, you said it. I was gonna do a clap.
Yeah, I had a little incident with the soundboard. But yeah, we're here for another exciting episode. Thanks for joining us. We're going to be all crewed up. You got me, Joe.
You got Nick.
We got Nick.
Georgia.
We've got Georgia. We're going to be talking about medicine of the future, from fantasy to patient care. And we have a special guest with us, Davis.
Hi, I'm Davis Ashura. I'm a physician by training. That's what I do every day. And I also write epic fantasy novels.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for being here, David.
Yeah.
Davis.
Thank you.
Jeez,
Davis.
Davis.
I left
Yeah, I
off
know.
the ending part.
Yeah, everyone calls me David, but the name itself is a little bit of a joke. It's my pen name. But if you say it correctly, Davis Asuras, angels and demons in Hinduism. So
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
nice. That's really cool.
See, we didn't get that the first take.
No, we didn't. Why are you bringing it up? Why can't we let my mistakes just fade away? So I have a little monologue to get us into the episode. So
Can't wait.
a healer waves their hand and the wound closes. A character drinks a potion and broken bones knit whole. Lifeline rejuvenated. Every culture has told stories about miraculous healing, from sacred springs to revival spells. We've imagined a body that could be fixed as easily as armor in a forge. And for centuries, that's where these ideas lived, on pages, in games, in myth. But reality has been slower. Cells hesitate, tissues resist. Healing is measured in years, months, weeks, not seconds. Every cure is a negotiation with biology, and biology doesn't take orders. But something has started to shift. We're programming immune cells like video game characters, growing organs, prolonging life. Medicine that can adapt faster than disease evolve. The gap between what we imagine and what can be done is thinner than it's ever been. We're here to explore the strange middle ground, where magic starts becoming reality and science starts feeling mythic.
I feel like
Nice.
science always does feel mythic. Like, if you don't understand what's going on, it just seems like you're doing spells over
It's
there.
like magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's always a gap between the science communicator and a physician who's trying to explain
Sure.
complex kind of things and terminology. So in your practice, you are, Davis?
I'm an endocrinologist.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm an
No, you're fine.
endocrinologist, which means most of what I deal with is chronic long-term diseases like diabetes, type 2, type 1, gestational, whatever, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, the sort of things that happen as we get older. And one of the interesting things about a lot of those spells that you mentioned that instantly heal wounds, those are acute injuries. And like I said on take 1, the trauma surgeon would probably be able to handle that better than I would in terms of explaining some of it. But if you think about like all the things that have to be healed when somebody has their arm nearly severed, it's not just flesh gets knitted, it's what flesh gets reknitted. It's their arteries, their veins, their capillaries, soft tissue, any bone bruises, but also tendons and ligaments, which don't have good blood supply. So it's like the spell is hyper intelligent at figuring out what needs to be fixed. And so that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about that until just now, especially the lack of good blood flow to tendons and ligaments. Then what I was also saying was one thing that I like to think about is how does the pain affect the person?
Right.
Because in the real world, when a person is repetitively injured, they shrink away from the pain. And there are cases of that you see in football, violent sport, where running backs, when they're young, will get to the hole and hit it hard
Right.
and go far. But just 3 years later, they're still young. They're 25 years old. They're not hitting that hole quite as fast, and their career is done. And it's because they can't take the pain anymore.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that's just due to repetitive wear and tear on their form.
And I
Go
think a lot of literature, like pop culture and things, don't necessarily talk about the
Right.
pain behind.
Yeah.
You might talk about these miraculous healings, but not talk about
Yeah.
the pain.
Yeah,
So
true.
a football player wouldn't get used to the pain after a while, or like?
I
You
think
mean
it-
get
No,
numb?
I don't think they
numb
would.
to the pain.
I think it would just
yeah,
gradually get worse,
worse.
and
Yeah,
worse.
and I think that's why you can turn to addiction and addictive painkillers
Yeah.
and things like that. So to try to numb it, but at some point the pain will override. It is going to be a throb. I mean, that's a constant.
I mean, I suppose if they were perfectly healed after every season and that punishing shot from the linebacker to their shoulder, which is probably hitting some previously injured spot, that no longer would be an issue because they're perfectly healed if they had that magic potion. Maybe they'd still be able to perform as well as they always have. But something about it's not even the pain, it's the anticipation of the pain that
right.
causes them to pause.
When you think of athletes, their mentality is a bit different than the average couch potato watching the game that goes, I could do that. Like, and
Oh,
even,
why didn't you go for
you know,
that?
right? It's, and even you think about it, the player who was on the bench rides the bench. They're not the star. They don't come into the game. They're the last person picked. Their mentality is so different than just an average person going along that stubs their toe potentially, because there is some, to Nick's point, I think there is some tolerance of pain that you can shove that out your head. And you're right. I mean, what you're getting to is that at some point that those skills don't work any longer, that the injury then and the repetitive injury, the repetitive getting hit, you just start thinking about that. And once you start thinking about getting hurt, you actually are more susceptible at some point, because you're now protecting yourself to not take a blow, which then exposes you potentially to take even a harder blow or set you up to not perform well.
I thought that would do the opposite. Like, all right, you're anticipating this, so you're going to be able to go ahead and go this way a little bit to avoid that, to get through it.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the other thing is that you are getting older, and there is this natural aging that starts to happen. So at
does
some point,
happen, certainly.
Father Time is undefeated.
is there a potion yet for anti-aging? Like,
I think y'all would know more about that than I would. I know available on the market, and I think y'all are working more on cutting edge what can be available, and that's pretty exciting. I just read on the edges about what can potentially happen.
Yeah.
But just in terms of my own field, one of the things that everybody's heard of it now, GLP-1 analogs.
That's right. Yeah.
They're the first true drug that we've had that has actually helped with weight loss on a long-term basis. We've had drugs that have helped a little bit, maybe 5-10% weight loss, but you can't stay on them for very long. And this is the one that these drugs are the ones that are the first that allow for sustained weight loss on a long-term basis. Now, the weight itself is less important to me than what that means underneath. So then we talk about physiology. And so with loss of body fat, then there's probably lower blood sugars, not just a lower hemoglobin A1C or monitoring of your diabetes, but maybe you actually normalize your blood sugars, you normalize your blood pressure, you normalize your lipids, and you lower your risk of heart disease and kidney disease because of all of those things. So it's pretty exciting, and there's a ton of money being poured into all these different GLP-1s and other aspects of the entire, I guess, intestinal endocrine system. The GLP-1, the glucagon-like peptide, is just one, but there's also GIP, gut intestinal peptide, and blocking glucagon itself. It's interesting. It's cool, but there's a lot of research being poured into it. But in terms of anti-aging, that's the only thing that I know of that sort of reverses aging, because those are chronic diseases. To not have them would be pretty phenomenal.
I mean, I think the research on all of the diseases associated around aging, mental, physical, there's a lot of progress that's happened. And we have seen life expectancy increase with more modern medicine from 30, 40 years to now 70, 80 years. So a significant increase there. And I think that will probably continue to increase. And with aging, you have things like, is it telomere length? So you have caps on your DNA that shortened as you age. And Dolly, the sheep that was cloned, and you go, oh, it's a new clone that's age 0. So they took it from an adult sheep, made a baby sheep that's identical. The thing that was interesting was that the telomere length actually stayed the same as the adult. It didn't reset. So that's because you clone yourself.
Does that mean then they'll age faster?
Not faster, but technically their cellular age would be equivalent to the adult,
Wow.
but they're a youth.
That's stinks.
Yeah, it does. So that's
I would think, right?
even in sci-fi fantasy, when you clone yourself and you go, oh, it's a younger clone, but really genetically and cellular, they're probably the same age as the, among other hand-wavium things we have to figure out with cloning, but yeah.
So would you have to take that bit as a younger age?
Yes, that's the idea, that you would, if you could harvest cells, which people are doing that at a young age, then you can create now organs. You can create kind of body parts. That's the idea.
You
that
replace
you would have
your body part with a younger body part. And it's based on your own DNA.
Right. So this kind of idea of personalized medicine.
I have a feeling that's way out of my price range.
Yeah, that's.
I don't think my insurance covers that.
I was gonna, and you on your Davis, not to get it, but on your about page, I want you to go check out Davis's webpage. Put the link on the website on the newsletter when it comes out. But you have, if the insurance lets you do it, like, so it's this whole idea.
I have to plead the fifth about insurance companies, or all those 7 words I'm not allowed to say will come out. I cannot stand them.
How trash they are?
I'll say that much and edit there. What's that?
I said how trash they are? Oh.
But I think
either confirm or
have
deny.
no idea.
And not to get you in trouble, but I think you do get into some really interesting ethical kind of questions where you do get money starts to come in, and scarcity of kind of these technologies and the have and have-nots, like who actually gets GLP. You mentioned that. There's a lot of insurances that won't cover that if you're not diagnosed with pre-diabetes or diabetes. And so that's its primary.
Coverage is it's only for type 2 diabetes right now. It's supposed to also be for fatty liver disease for one of them. One of the GLP-1s got that indication. And we can get into the weeds of those kind of things, but you're right. They're not, unless they're also covered for weight loss, but not all insurance plans cover weight loss medications, particularly GLP-1 agonists. So yeah, they're great drugs for lots of things off label, but you write for them and then they go to the pharmacy and it's $1,800. That's like, who can afford that?
There's reality.
Before we get too far, I mean, you just talk a little bit about what GLP is for a lot of folks aren't in the medical or science field.
It was actually originally discovered. It was actually discovered back in the 1990s. It's called glucagon-like peptide 1. It had in humans, it normally is metabolized within a few minutes. But what we found was that it has a plethora of different effects. It slows gastric emptying, it potentially increases insulin release, and it seems to have an effect at the level of the brain to increase your sense of satiety. So you don't want to eat as much. And it also causes a little bit of nausea, and in some people, a horrific amount of nausea and other GI upset. But in terms of the good effects, it's slowing gastric emptying, increasing insulin production from the pancreas, and increasing your sense of satiety so you don't eat as much. There may be other things that we're still learning because there are receptor sites at other locations where it might have a beneficial effect in terms of cardiovascular health in a direct way rather than just through improved blood sugar and weight loss. It might have direct effects at the level of the kidney. But the first GLP-1 that was synthesized was discovered in the spit of the Gila monster.
The what?
The spit of the Gila monster. You know, the lizard.
The lizard, the big lizard, the Gila monster.
Oh.
Not a Sesame Street character.
That's where the...
I'm just shocked that it was in there.
Wow, and then to discover that. I'm really curious how that...
They licked it.
I have no idea how they discovered it, but that was exenatide.
Like, oh, I think I'm going to check this.
They could have been doing research on the Gila monster.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there are a lot of...
Right, but then to translate that into...
Right. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
I mean, there's a lot of cross species where you're looking at another organism and then you discover something like that, and then that translates to human kind of biology. So, yeah, it happens a bunch.
I think that would be interesting if that's how potions work too, like magical potions. Like somebody is trying to figure out how to heal something, And they're like, oh, the sharks heal pretty nicely.
Right.
There's Arctic sharks. And
And I think the
let's grab
potion
something
thing,
from them.
that gets to maybe Nick's point about that line between science and myth and kind of fantasy,
Where it all
that-
sort of blurs.
that sometimes
together.
you have something where you really
You
don't
do.
understand the science 100%, but it does this function, and then you can manipulate that to work. And you don't necessarily, like potions, you don't necessarily have to understand all of the science around it, but it will heal up the bones or a scar.
makes
or
you
something,
feel
right?
better.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I think in either some video games, some literature, that is how these potions are created. They take these different plants, fungi, whatever, moss, and they just know that if you mix them, because they have certain properties that they've investigated, and if you mix them, you heat them to the right temperature. It's basically chemistry at that point, but they call it alchemy. Then they create this tablet or this potion or whatever that has the properties that they want. It is interesting how science has seeped into that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, and I think that was always one of the issues with deforestation in the jungles and things like that, that there's a lot of botanical species, insect species that we just clear through that have been humans have devastated, which potentially hold pharmacological compounds that might be useful in disease prevention, therapeutics, and these functions. And so it's one of these where you have a lot of these ecologists going in and then taking samples to actually process later and see what compounds are in there, what they do, because tribal communities they didn't suffer from this disease. Why not? Oh, they made tea out of the bark of this plant and now it's gone. So now no one knows why.
So on that one, I was watching the show Common Side Effects. It's on Adult Swim, where this guy comes across a mushroom that ends up being like a heal-all video game style mushroom. I don't know what you'd call it. But it was a whole story about the big pharma not wanting that to become a thing. Is that something that they would, I don't know if you could speak on this, but is that something they would put a stop to?
So if there was a naturally occurring substance that could do the same thing, let's just say of a GLP-1, help you lose weight, and you don't have to take it in a tablet form, you don't have to have it created in a lab, it's just something that you can grow in your garden, right? I don't think that they would want that to be available to the public. I don't know if they could control it, but I don't think they would want it available to the public, because your best health has always been and always will start in your kitchen, not in your doctor's office. It'll start in your kitchen, and what you eat is going to be the most important determinant.
So we're going
Of your
back to
health.
witchcraft over here.
Yeah, we are. That's right.
But-
Witchcraft.
Me and my
Right.
cauldron got it.
But but then they're not making money.
So that's why there's not a lot of research that is done the amount of money spent on pharmaceutical research compared to research done on just proper nutrition, the pharmaceutical research just dwarfs the research that's done on nutrition. And it's because you can't patent a diet, right? You can't say this is mine. Nobody else is allowed to
Right.
eat this kind of food the way I do.
So really, medicine of the future can just be some really simple, basic.
Chicken noodle soup.
Chicken noodle soup.
I mean,
So and Nick last night I watched Idiosyncrasy. Is it with the
what's his name?
Mike Judd?
Oh, Idiocracy.
Idiocracy. Is it
Idiocracy.
Idiocracy? Is it
Yes.
Idiocracy? Okay.
Yeah.
There it is.
What did you say?
Idiosyncrasy, yeah.
I don't know what that is. That sounds like,
Idiocracy,
what?
yeah.
Not quite the same.
Yeah,
Idiocracy. That is such a fantastic
But
film.
this point about where they were using the Gatorade on everything, and it was like the electrolytes.
It's what
So,
plants crave.
So it's that whole idea, because they bought the CDC, the FDA, and then they made it like their company logo, and it was like that's
Right.
everything. And
Oh, gosh.
yeah, so
I
Yeah.
love
Get
that
it from
film,
your
but
library.
It scares me so much.
yeah. But that's to this point here about industry and capitalism converging and the good of that. And that gets to that ethics question, like where's the line at?
Right, and it gets
Right.
back to the money thing. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. With the way they were doing stuff in that film, having everything so commercialized and very capitalistic, was absolutely bonkers. Like the way that it does simulate what we're doing here in America now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all very
Yeah.
like, okay, you can have this, but we're going to do this and we're going to brand it this way.
So it's all about the spin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's also all about commodity, right? It's like, what can you make off of somebody else's whatever problem or issue that they have?
Right.
yeah. I mean, we touched on pain and football in reality or sports, but in fiction, how's that? I mean, how do you navigate that, square that circle with your
Yeah.
characters and they're dealing with?
So there is a certain amount of hand wavium because I do injure my characters and I do want them healed and I do want them functional. But sometimes the healers don't know what they're dealing with. Had a patient, not a patient.
In your head, you look at them
yeah,
as patients. I get it.
I had a character who had hyperthyroidism, and it was there's different causes of hyperthyroidism. This one was triggered by basically a cold.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was unable to train whatsoever because anytime he tried to exert himself, his heart would just race to 180 beats a minute and he had no stamina. And nobody knew how to fix him because they didn't understand what was wrong with him. And the healing didn't work because they didn't know what they were trying to heal. This is the hand wavium part. I almost said patients again. One of my characters recognized the symptoms and she was able to heal him of what was going on with his thyroid. It actually was a fun little thing to write it in that way. And it's also cool because we actually don't have a cure for that particular issue. You have to just wait it out and you'll get better on your own. But she healed him of it. So she short-circuited the process and got him better much quicker.
Yeah.
So that's part of what I do is I want to use diseases that are a little bit esoteric, but something that I know about and that the reader might not know about, and even the healers might not know about. And it's not just whoosh, here's the spell and everything's cured. It's whoosh, this is the spell that will fix this particular problem because we understand what the problem is.
So are there any side effects for using a potion or a cure for something that isn't the correct diagnosis or ailment?
I mean, I think that would depend on what the author or the creator wants to do. Like, if they want to give you a penalty for doing something wrong, then there should be a side effect. Or if they're like, no, that's just going to slow down the plot, then it's just going to be ineffective treatment.
I was going to say, like, in maybe not in fiction as much, because you're right, you are limited by word count, what you're going to throw in there. But, in the video game land, it's the nod to Nick here, who probably has played more video games than I have in the last decade or so.
In the last week, I've played.
Yeah.
I think you probably have played more in the last day than I have in my entire life.
But yeah, I mean, because I think of older video games like in the 80s and Wolfenstein, Doom, Descent, like where you had a health bar, you're going around, you're collecting med kits and things like that, and you go. But video games now that are multi-dimensional, character-driven, I mean, you could start introducing some of these things where you're to your point, you're penalized for taking the wrong potion or picking up the wrong a needle you find off the ground and jabbing yourself.
Right.
But you can also have long-term diseases maybe that you are suffering from repeated injuries and the mental kind of strain of that. And so you really need a different type of healing, all the way to, could you have more long-term diseases that are affecting you? I mean, I don't know, is that...
Joe, I'm going to need you to cut this bit out so I can write it all down. We cannot let this go out.
I think that would be actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, if you're injured in whatever way you're injured, and you took like in the real world, if you have some sort of disease, like your urinary tract infection, and you were given the wrong antibiotic, one, you're still going to have a urinary tract infection, and two, you might end up having a secondary infection. Not likely, but it's possible.
Yeah.
You're certainly going to not feel great because you might have a bad reaction to the drug that didn't cure the initial disease. So I think that would actually be cool that if video game developers or authors incorporated the mistakes of medicine into the healing so that there is penalty.
Right.
I think that would actually be pretty cool.
Can you think of any examples?
I can
or-
think that would be good in like a D&D session. Like Dungeons and Dragons would be a very easy start for that.
Yeah.
But as far as video games go, as of right now, I can't think of any because it's very, this one thing is going to help you. Unless you
go to carry on through. I mean, a lot of these games are mission driven and you're checking off the boxes. So
and do you
really
have so many lives?
not as
that-
much anymore.
I was going to say, is that
That was
even
a-
a thing?
That was a thing more of the past.
the past one. I mean, so
with
the games I
arcades,
played,
too.
you got 3 lives,
Right.
and there would be a turkey leg along the way that you would eat or an apple, and that was your bonuses for making it through the levels, like Streets of Rage.
Yeah.
I'm referring to, which is one of my favorite, the Sega Genesis Streets of Rage. 1, 2, and 3. I spent a lot of time on those. But yeah, you would have this would be a random chicken on a road, and they eat the whole thing, bones and all, and your health bar recovers. So it's always, you always have that. But when you mentioned UTIs, for whatever reason, I thought of Grand Theft Auto. Like that would be.
Like, would that be the name of the game, UTI?
Man, that was such a good game. UTI. What? Hey, Mom, can you give me UTI for
When
Christmas?
we get the UTI.
Yeah, urinary tract infection. Those are always fun.
Yeah. No, I think of it because it was our oldest son, and he wanted to play Grand Theft Auto with his friends, but we were like, I don't think you're old enough to play that game. And so he said, no, well, let's play it. I'm going to set it up in the living room. I'm going to play it. You'll see it's not what you think. And I was like, well, I think it's
And he
everything
got
I
his
think.
friends to join in.
And he got his friends to join in. But to start the game, you have to like perform a drug deal. And so he's trying to do it.
Yeah, you have to rob
Right.
someone.
He's trying to do it like.
And he goes, look, I can get a job and I can
That's
like
right.
earn points and
So,
stuff. I'm like,
we're sitting here for about an hour and we're like, please rob the bank. And so he robs the bank and the game starts in earnest. And then he's there and he starts, I'm gonna get a job and I'm working at a store. And he's on all this on. He's got it. And then this like Porsche or something pulls up and they're like, hey, Max, we're glad you're in the game. And then they're like, he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to my job. And they're like, no, I got this. I beat up this old man. We took his condo. And so we're like, yeah, I don't know about this, Max. So it was.
I got my 9 to 5 to go to, guys. I can't. And I'm tired after
Can't do
work.
it.
So I thought there
it's
with
like
the
that
real
just
life.
isn't quite as fun.
So I think
Okay.
having these kind of disease modalities, that would be that type of interface where you're there.
Hey, as of right
But aren't you playing the game to escape all that?
there are some people that are not. Like
Yeah.
the amount of role playing that goes into those games.
Yeah.
I know a ambulance driver who plays as a policeman in the game. He goes, yeah, I go in and I'm just breaking up fights in the game. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you?
Why are you doing it?
Because maybe it's all the stuff he wishes he could do in his regular job.
Is it Nick Cage?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to attempt to.
He was an ambulance driver.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah, what movie was
Was
that?
it Bringing the Dead? Waking
Yeah,
the Dead? Or one of those? Yeah.
Are we talking about Nicolas Cage again?
Yes.
Or still?
Yep. Yeah.
There was one of my, so did you go to the what is it called, at Dragon Con? They have this big parade with all these people cosplaying.
Yeah,
Did
down
you
the
go to
street.
that show?
I saw part of it.
Yeah.
I had a panel to get to, like, while it's like,
So I've seen it twice, but the funniest thing I ever saw was this group of people dressed up as Nicolas Cage from all his different movies.
Oh
and they just
my
have like this little
gosh.
cardboard face on their
Oh my God. That would be so
There was one that was a
amazing.
That would be
serious.
fun.
It was hilarious.
yeah, that would be fun.
That would be so
Yeah, no, I missed that.
amazing.
No, I saw part of the parade. I had to make my way through it because I was like trying to get to a panel. But yeah,
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So
it is. Dragon Con it was a ton of fun. So
Maybe we'll get to
I'll
go
pitch it.
sometime.
I know we
Nick.
weren't invited.
you're invited. Yeah, everyone's invited. I wasn't.
Yeah,
So
you should go.
one thing that just hit me is it's not really an anti-aging that you guys are doing anymore, but it's more of a life extending.
Yes.
Like it's
Yeah,
not.
and it's not just life extending. What you're trying, what I
Quality.
want to see is quality of life
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
extension. So it's not
Right.
just you live more years, but
Right.
the years you have, you can still do the things you want to do.
That's
Like you aren't
huge.
in a
Both
pain or suffering
right.
in
That's
that time.
huge.
Right.
Yeah.
Or limited because
Yeah.
of constantly having to go to the doctor, or your health just doesn't allow you to go up a flight of stairs or go for a walk with your grandkids. That's what you
Right.
want. You want
Right.
those kind of qualities where you can go with your grandkids to the Grand Canyon if you have the money and show them the Grand Canyon, and you're not bogged down.
Not just
Because
showing it
of
to them on the
health
TV.
issues.
Man,
Yeah.
look at this.
Yeah,
This
there
is
you
the
go.
Grand Canyon right here.
This is
Ain't
the
it a
Grand-
beaut?
It's really cool in real life too.
And I was going to say some of the other thing about medicine is that's changing a little bit is disease prevention, and that goes to this quality of life, like to actually not wait until you're actually in
Well,
disease state.
It goes
happening.
back to the thing about nutrition and
Oh,
how
right.
you're just living your daily life and how much that is a matter of prevention.
And working out. I think we underestimate
Activity.
our activity levels, and we get very sedentary in our daily lives. And I think moving and being active
Yeah.
is
I mean,
really
our
a big
bodies were
thing.
meant
Yeah.
to be used, not to sit at a desk all day.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right about that. We're healthier when we're moving.
And we talked about on other episodes where we've evolved to be these kind of long distance creatures that can stalk prey. I think in the heart of the superhero episode with Sai, he was talking about that. And in the performance episode we talked about those things, about how just the human body, we've evolved to go long distances and to endure through that.
And now we're just hunting deals on Amazon.
And deals. Yeah. Getting our thumbs a workout.
Man, that was a hard time.
We're looking for the closest Chick-fil-A.
Man, I got to go on a scavenger hunt to the grocery store.
I always think of Wall-E.
Yeah.
I always think that, like that being the future.
Is that your movie of the season?
Yeah, I just feel like we think that. I think that's exactly what'll happen if we just continue to just look at our phones, our little screens, and just ride around on little motorized vehicles. You know what I mean?
Do you have one yet?
No.
They're coming in the mail.
A motorized vehicle?
Yeah, the little hovercraft.
Scooter?
A little hovercraft, yeah.
Yeah,
with the
let's go
display.
play golf.
We can watch. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, you
you're
could still
totally-
roll and it won't make a difference.
And you're totally distracted just looking at your little screen, and you don't even know at all what's happening.
Yeah. I think we talked about character in game and all the attention or protagonists. The attention is usually focused on them, but I think in real life we are moving towards personalized medicine. And
That's the goal.
that might be, yeah.
Whether it's
Yeah.
whether it's cancer therapy or anything, you're looking for medications that will target that particular cancer with particular receptors and no other receptor sites, so that there's not a bunch of side effects that you have to deal with. And we're getting much better at that every single year, which I think is like one of the best things. So when I was in training, the whole thing about chemotherapy with cancer, it's like, what's worse, the chemotherapy or the cancer?
Right.
And now when I see some of my patients, they go to the oncologist and they're on their chemotherapy agents, those side effects are still present, but nothing like they used to be. It's just been wonderful to see.
Yeah, I'm even thinking of pushing beyond that, where you were talking about some of the GLPs and how per person, one can have very intense nausea and some have very little. And so this idea of personalized medicine, really personalized, that each individual, the
It's a
drug
different
would be
formula.
exactly, it would be tailored to their genetics, their cellular makeup, so that when you give it to them, the dosage, everything is so finely tuned
Precise.
that it does that. And that's part of this longevity
And I
and
feel
quality
like
of life. These things are starting to come where
I
it's going to
can't
be.
help but be cynical and think going back to like the dollar sign.
Yeah.
Who's going to be able to afford that kind of?
Unfortunately,
I feel like that wouldn't be that bad, though, because I know we're going to bring it up, but AI, if that goes around and is supposed to be personalized to your, like, genetic makeup, they can have these. All right, this is what the formula is. What is going to be the perfect ratio for this body?
I think people are working on it, but to George's point, and Davis, you can jump in, but to George's point, I think some of the drive is about money. So to entice research, especially as government funding is now amorphous and weird, we're in some weird state.
Right.
That means private sector has to pick up the tab, and they're only going to pick up the tab if there is profit, right? Because we're all good.
Right.
We're all raised good American capitalists. And so that's the way it works. And so with your cynicism, I think it's well founded that the driver of the technology is going to be people who can pay for that technology, and the pharmaceutical companies see a buck in it. And then after they make their money back, then they will start to lower price, or as technologies develop. So things that might be difficult and expensive, that comes down. Sequencing the genome, really expensive. The first one was really expensive, took a long time. And now you can take a cheek swab and mail it in and get genetic information back. So that's what happens. But you need someone to say, I can make money in this industry, and then they do it. And that's the way a lot of progress, unfortunately, has propagated, was, can I make a buck off this? And if I can, then let's throw $2 at it if I'm gonna get $3 back. If I'm gonna get 4. Right. So it is, unfortunately.
I mean, that is how pharmaceutical research occurs. It's driven by profit. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but you don't love it when you know that somebody can benefit from something and they can't afford it because the drug costs too much. And I don't think that's because of the pharmaceutical industry. That's actually because there's 3 layers of bureaucracy between where the drug is made and the pharmacy where you pick it up. And all of those bureaucrats or those companies that really, I'll stop there.
I feel like this is our most anti-capitalism episode ever.
So I'm not against pharmaceutical research or capitalism.
Right.
I feel for my patients that can't afford drugs that I know that they could benefit from, and I know where the problems are. A drug company actually provides benefit. They're developing stuff that can help us.
Right.
But there's other players that get their fingers in the pot that I don't think they shouldn't be there.
Yeah. And to your point, Nick, and Willie, but AI, I think at that kind of the cutting edge of technology, especially drug discovery, we're starting now to see a lot of AI look at protein structure, try to...
See, that's where I think that's going to be where the personalization comes from. And that's my hope for why the limitation on cost or affordability, I should say, won't be as much of an issue, because the thing that I would hope the AI can do as far as pattern recognition eventually, if it's as good as we are at pattern recognition, it's going to be able to sweep through receptor sites. Because receptor sites, they're 3D hodgepodges that are really amorphous, and it's really difficult to understand what's supposed to fit in that thing. It's hard to visualize it, hard to model it. And if you have a program that can model it, and it can look for that particular receptor within somebody's cell, wherever it happens to be looking, if that cost comes down, which we hope it does, since it always seems to come down with technological innovation, then at that point, you would have compounded medicine that's specific for that individual, which would hopefully be far less expensive than some pharmaceutical company producing a huge amount of the same drug where they have to make a
I think
trial.
Using, so OpenAI is the one that does protein structure. And as a structural electron microscopist, this is something where you talk to pharma folks and the AI models are nice, but they still have to go to the experimental. I think that's still, we're still building all the experimental data up, that you start seeing errors in the AI models. And so it's really now this handoff. We get a model that's close, go to experimental research, refine it, actually figure out the right structure, the ligand binding sites, and then go to AI and go, what can fit? What actually makes sense to go into this ligand binding site? Make 100, go through pharmacology and just make wild stuff. And then we can make that synthetically to fit in that pocket. And so I think then you build that up. Then you can look at what are the differences in your protein structure and Nick's protein, Davis, mine, and then go, okay, these are the same, but your pocket's a little bit, and this key doesn't fit in this lock as well. We need a different lock. And I think that's what you're getting at. Now we can find the lock, the key to the lock a lot faster if we know we can get to that protein structure, because that now has become faster to get to. And now can we find keys to the locks faster?
And a totally unscientific thing popped into my head when you were talking about this, but it makes me think of like publishers going to like print on demand versus just printing like thousands and thousands of copies, and then we'll see how many. But no, this specific person wants this specialized personal thing. You know what I mean? So you're only going to print it when they demand it. So like that with medicine.
Yeah, no, sure. Yeah, no, that works. No. Anything. But I mean, the thing that you fear is that personalization, because it's unique to you, will cost more. And it's like, how do we bring down the cost of this thing?
But you're only printing it when you need it. But you still see what I'm saying?
Print on a unit basis. Print on demand is going to be a lot more expensive than if you do a large print run.
Oh,
so for instance, if you do a print run of like 5,000 books, each unit might cost $3 to print on demand. Each unit will cost around, if it's trade paperback, it's going to be around, depending on how long it is, it may be anywhere from $8 to $12.
So personalization.
So it's the total opposite of what I just said. Okay.
Yeah, personalization usually drives cost. Yeah, because you're making something that's very, very
it's like if you hired somebody to build you a car versus going to a dealer and just buying one of their cars.
Yeah. Anytime you customize something is And
then you have all the people that were involved, so that then add tax on to that final. Your final cost becomes just higher. Yeah,
but I mean, those are different sort of examples, I think, because there's a lot of material cost into printing a book or creating or making a car. There's just a lot of material in that, whereas there might not be quite as much material cost to create that medicine that one particular person needs. I don't think we won't have a handle on that for a long time as to what it actually is.
And a lot of the cost might be the first, because if you know the drug works in this pocket receptor, it will do what it does.
Once you figure out,
then making derivatives of that tailored to different people, that process should be going through all the checks and balances. Should be faster and easier for a drug company. Making product derivative B is cheaper than making the alpha.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So that's where that's how you save.
That's the hope.
And getting that, so you don't need to do as much chemistry. You don't have to keep trying to reiterate and reinvent the wheel every time. You can just jump to making a different color wheel.
So this is what AI should be used for. Yes.
Among other things, I mean, doing taxes or something like that. I can.
Joe, you're a writer, aren't you?
Yes, I do.
There's an AI program that I'm using that sort of, you can upload your PDFs into it, and then it just it sort of uses that as a database where you can interrogate your previous work,
right?
So that you don't have. I have trouble remembering my kids' names sometimes. I'll call them the wrong names all the time, or I'll call my cat my dog's name and vice versa. So that I've found that to be extremely helpful, since the series that has the fewest number of named characters in my series is at 155. So here's 155 named characters. I'm never going to remember all that. The most I think is 280 in one series.
I think I always, I mean, that's the touch on this. I mean, a little bit to do with this episode, but I always say I think there's different things. We always got to separate that ethical, moral bit out of a lot of this, even medicine. But the AI creation of the large language models and how that data was curated, there's a great argument to be made. I'm glad to see some compensation starting to happen with the endoscopic case that was settled. Anthropic case that was just settled. Yep. And so I think that's one discussion. But like a lot of these technologies, we're not putting the genie back in Pandora's box. It's out there, it's gone, it's loose. And so I think, to your point, Davis, is how to use the tools to best aid us in our craft. And that be medicine, that be science, and not a replacement for the things that we enjoy doing, right? We enjoy writing for writing's sake. AI really is bad at that, so don't use it for that at all. But for something like this, where you're curating your characters and saying, I can't remember what character interacted with what character, and then it has this kind of, you fed it your own personal data. You're controlling now what you're feeding it, controlling that chat box. I think that's the perfect example of how these tools should be used. The next point, that's how you should use AI there.
That's where it's a wonderful feature and a wonderful aid to the creative process rather than a replacement of the creative process.
Yeah.
So, Davis, when did you start writing your novels?
Oh gosh, I'm old. So I've wanted to be a writer probably since 1985 when I was much younger than I am now. But
you might not be that much older than some of us in this recording.
And then notice how he looked at me.
I know.
Y'all look a lot younger than I do.
We can talk offline, but yeah, I think it's surprising sometimes. So yeah.
So things got in the way, my career, going to college, med school, that sort of thing. And so I tried my hand when I was a teenager, really tried starting when I was about 38 years old, and then published for the first time in 2014. I've been a published author for 11 years.
Congratulations,
cool.
Man.
Congrats. Yeah.
A long journey.
And always fantasy? Always.
Yeah, it's always been fantasy because it was science fiction and fantasy have always been my first loves. I would love to write science fiction, but I'm caught up in a couple of long series, so I don't know when I'll be able to do that, but I would love to write space opera or write First Colony. I would love to write a First Colony story, and I just don't know if I'll ever have the time to do those kind of things, but those are my bread and butter. Yeah. I've been reading a lot of Frida McFadden lately, though. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's very popular. Everybody in my office absolutely adores her, and they're about to come out with the movie, I think, with Sydney Sweeney, The Housemaid, I think is the name of the book and the movie. But yeah, I've been reading a lot of hers, and now I'm kind of like, gosh, it sure would be fun to write a thriller too.
Yeah.
Right.
And Frida is actually is also a physician. I think she's a neurologist by training.
Oh, really?
Oh, damn.
Yeah, a lot of.
So go Frida.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
Put that in the show notes.
So what's been your biggest inspiration for your books?
So I wanted to be a writer when I read Lord of the Rings. That was my biggest inspiration for wanting to be a writer, because I wanted to create something that epic. That and some books by Arthur C. Clarke and also Robert Heinlein was what spurred. That's why I wanted to write sci-fi, especially as Heinlein's Young Explorer series of books, like The Moon is a Harsh Mistress.
Very good one.
And so those would probably be the biggest inspirations for why I wanted to be a writer. In terms of the books I've wanted to always have an homage towards would be Wheel of Time. I absolutely loved Robert Jordan's books.
Yeah.
Even the slow ones that everyone complains about, the middle book syndrome, I guess you could say. But those were the books that I always gravitated towards, those big epics where something world-shaking is about to happen.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned Moon is a Harsh Mistress, but that one, it had the AI component on there that helped the moon colonies fight for independence. So I thought it was all through telephone lines.
Right.
It's been a while since I read it, but I still remember that. And it was one of these books. I mean, that was early, the computer had self-agency and was intelligent, and then made a decision of who they thought was right and wrong. No, it's a great read in there. Cool.
And just like a question more on like process, creative, how do you find the time? Because it sounds like you have quite a few books and series, and then also to have such a high, what's the word? But your job takes
doctor.
Right. Your job takes so much. How do you find the time to?
It was easier a few years ago before COVID, where the stress of just being in healthcare wasn't quite as much. So I'd have plenty of emotional energy.
Yeah.
When I got home, I'd be able to spend time with the family and my kids. And I'd have a few hours of writing that I could do. I didn't read much and I didn't watch much TV at that time. And that's really how I found the time to be a writer, was because I sort of had to sacrifice entertainment because I was wanting to write the books that I wanted to read. And that's how I found the time. It's been more challenging more recently to get that balance, just to be emotionally ready to write at the end of the day compared to how it used to be.
Wow.
I'm hoping that'll change.
Yeah.
It's one of those Dr. Heal Thyself things, like stop stressing so much.
Right.
In your writing, I think you touched on it, but the inner kind of the real medicine, fantasy medicine, how do you strike that balance in your own works?
I want injuries to feel real in terms of recovery, even if it is the recovery is shortened in terms of the physical healing. I want the mental healing to occur and not just be hand waved away. So that's one of the things that I draw from as a physician, is that you have to recover. You have to grit your teeth and fight through to do physical therapy. Like if you have a knee replacement, that's the beginning of your journey. That's not the end of the journey. The knee replacement, the surgery is the surgery, but afterwards comes the physical therapy, and that's where the work happens.
Right.
And so when my characters get injured, I want them healed, but I want them to work for recovery.
Yeah.
And so that's part of how I think about things. Other people, that's not to say that you can't just hand wave it and say the person's healed and off they go to do whatever they need to do, because it all depends on what kind of story you're trying to tell too, right? I mean, when you have those video games where you just have to eat a loaf of bread and you're good to go, that the game developers don't want you to slow down to heal. They want you to be able to eat that loaf of bread and then get right back into it. And that's the journey they want the player to involve themselves in, rather than what we were talking about earlier. Like that was the wrong loaf of bread. That didn't do anything. That was large.
That just made me throw up.
Protein meal.
You've lost a life.
That's not the journey that they want you to take.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what you want, but that's what I want.
Very good. Awesome. And we're coming to the end here. Nick, you got something? It looks like
I'm trying to piece on how to put it together. What is something you think everyone should do to be healthier? You mentioned that it starts in the kitchen. What is one thing that you're like, oh yeah, this is something that I would recommend people do to help with this?
Well,
I'm looking for free medical advice.
How do
I'm trying
people
to
live
say.
forever is what he's asking.
So that is a good question. I did mention there's not as much research done on nutrition as there is on pharmacy or pharmaceuticals. And one of the things that is challenging is that there's all these diets that have come, whether it's the Mediterranean diet, the keto diet, high protein diet, or Atkins diet, whatever you want, all these different things. What's interesting is that, and Joe was talking about this before, we were all talking about it, the same diet is not necessarily applicable to every single person in terms of their health. For some people, for me, for instance, a low carb diet does nothing for my glycemic control. It doesn't help. A high protein, moderate carb, lots of exercise does wonders for me. And so giving nutritional advice isn't really something I can give, because that's something you almost have to discover. But there are some basics.
Yeah.
Processed food is not good food. So if you go to the grocery store, stay along the edges, not in the aisles where the food is processed and in a box. So fresh food is your friend, not the food in a box. If you get the majority of your food along the edges of the grocery store, that's where you should get the majority of your food. In terms of exercise, it depends on what you're trying to do, but a half hour of walking every day is a wonderful thing. If nothing else, it's almost meditation.
Yeah.
And so that's always a good thing to have that space to let the stress of the day sort of empty out of you if you can. If you want to maintain muscle mass as you're getting older, weight training is fantastic if it's done safely. You don't need to try to lift like Arnold or Ronnie Coleman or something. You'll actually probably hurt yourself if you did. So moderate weight training would also be good. But if you can't do any of those, shop on the perimeter of the grocery store and eat fresh foods.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We got a lot, and really interesting to tether earlier that I talked about genetic sequencing, but some of that's now tethering into nutrition and kind of your own genetic background. And
Right.
as that becomes a bigger thing, getting that information that can guide your nutritional, like what should your diet be, how should you eat, and things like that. So really, there's a lot of convergence of these ideas, but
Yeah, this I'm trying to pull this up out of my mind. This is coming back to like memory issues and that type of aging. But this guy, he spent like $2 million. He's like trying to like figure out how he can like live much, much longer. But it was interesting, some of the things that he was doing. And one of the things was he was taking his sleep so serious.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like he was like gamifying it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like I have to, and all these different techniques to get better sleep. And that's huge. I mean, that's just another part of it.
and there's also a genetic factor in that. They just found that there are people who only need 4 or 5 hours of sleep genetically, that they're coded that way. And there's other people that are the extreme other end that need 8, 9 hours of sleep. And so once again, it's like nutrition. People give the average, but really you have to listen to your body, I think, and go with it. And even disease states and things like that. Body wisdom is a thing that I don't think people get enough credit to, that you know what your body is doing, how it feels, when to speak up and advocate for yourself. But yeah, so what I didn't mention is the oldest piece of fiction with healers in it. Nick, you want to take a...
I'm going to say it goes back to one of the first writings where it's scribbled on a cave wall where they're like, "Ooh, eat this. It makes you feel better." Right?
It's like the Epic of Gilgamesh.
I'm going to say that you're wrong. It's going to be cave drawings.
Yeah, no, it has healers and
What was
herbalists.
What was it in Gilgamesh that they talked about? I don't remember.
It was the link. It was plants and herbalists and healing, that relationship to that. But yeah, almost a lot of these concepts are in there.
For that?
At 2000 BCE. Yeah. So
It's been a while. Is that something I can get print on demand?
You can,
There's supposed to be a hieroglyph. One of my attendings, he was from Egypt. He was telling me that there was a hieroglyph from one of the pharaohs. One of the sons of the pharaohs died, and the inscription or hieroglyphic said, "He lost his life through his urine." And so the question, what he thought of, because he's an endocrinologist, was he had type 1 diabetes.
Oh, wow.
And so with type 1 diabetes, your blood sugars are really high. You're constantly thirsty and you're urinating all the time. And you waste away through your urine. So he thought that was the first documented case of type 1 diabetes. So I always thought
That's
that was
hilarious.
Kind of
I would not have thought of that.
that Egyptian mythology at 1500 BC also talked about the healers and the healer goddesses and things like that. So
I'm pretty sure
even
mine
in
was
Greek
right,
mythology.
though. Cave drawings.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
We'll put it in the show notes.
I said fictional writing, so that's a drawing. Yeah. Potato. Cool. All right, Davis, you want to tell folks about your books? I know we had a little bit of segment here at the end about your writing process, but just where we can find you online.
Sure. So I've got a set of books that are all interconnected called The Anchored Worlds. There's 4 series. They're actually separate series. You don't have to read any of them any of the other series to appreciate the one you're on, but they're all interconnected, kind of like, I guess, Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. The books are available on Amazon, and most of them are also available on other stores like Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Google Play, Apple, and then the audiobooks are available on Audible. And I got great narrators. I got Nick Bodell as the narrator for most of my books, and Travis Baldry for 3 of my books. So
Very
got
cool.
great narrators.
Cool.
And we can get those personalized, right?
Yeah, or just send it to me. I'll send it back.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much for being with
Yeah.
us.
And you said you had a new book coming out
Absolutely.
in the summer? Was that?
Yeah, I have a series called Instrument of Omens, and 4 books are out right now. And I am working on book 5,
Awesome.
and I promise it's going to come out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let us know when it does, and we'll send that out to everyone to grab it. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Davis, thank you for joining
Well,
us on
thank you
this.
for having me. This was awesome. I appreciate this.
Sorry about our
Conversation.
earlier
Appreciate you
hiccup.
having me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Hope we didn't get you in any trouble with insurance companies. Or I work at a medical institution, so I don't. Maybe I'm
I'm sure
Maybe you'll
somebody's
be
going
in
to hear what I
trouble.
have to say, but that's okay.
awesome. So yeah, you got me, Joe.
You got Nick.
Got Nick.
Georgia.
You got Georgia.
And we went down
Some healing holes. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe. Eat healthy. Love y'all.
Get sleep.